Welcome to the Creative Commons RX podcast. Before diving into this episode, I want to ensure we're all on the same page. This is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient or pharmacist-patient relationship is formed. Using this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's risk. The content on this podcast is not intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Clinical experts created the references, content, and clinical insight. NotebookLM, a Google AI tool, created the audio content, which I extensively reviewed before release. Finally, the host states that he takes all conflicts of interest seriously. Currently, there are no conflicts to disclose. For all of his disclosures and the companies he invests in or advises, he directs users to reach out independently, where he keeps an up-to-date and active list of all disclosures.
Welcome to The Explainer. We're diving into a medical revolution today, one that promises some absolutely incredible cures. But, and it's a big but, it also comes with some really profound challenges. I mean, just imagine this for a second. What if we could move beyond just managing a chronic illness, the endless cycle of pills and doctor's visits, and instead we could actually have one-time permanent cures? But here's the kicker. It is literally the multi-million-dollar question. And that's the paradox, right? That's what we're going to unpack today. We've got this incredible promise of miracle cures on one hand, and on the other, this huge, huge question of who actually gets to have them. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, so first things first. What are we even talking about here? What are these revolutionary treatments? Well, they're part of a new class of medicine called cell and gene therapies. You'll hear them called CGTs for short.
And look, this is a huge shift in how we think about medicine. For centuries, it's all been about treating symptoms, right? Managing the problem. But CGTs, they're totally different. They go straight to the source code of a disease, our actual DNA, and they aim to fix the problem right at its root. And what's so wild about this is just how precise it is. We're talking about replacing a gene that's causing a disease with a healthy one, or maybe inactivating a gene that's just not working right, or even introducing a totally new or modified gene to fight a disease. It's like they're literally going in and editing the biological software to fix the bug for good.
Okay, so the science is amazing, it's revolutionary, but it also creates a massive challenge. And yeah, you guessed it, we have to talk about the cost, which is just staggering.
And this isn't some far-off futuristic question, These therapies are available right now. And the price tags, honestly, they're hard to even wrap your head around. Take a look at this, $4.25 million. That is the list price for a therapy called Libmeldy. It treats a really devastating rare genetic disorder. And yeah, you're seeing that number right. It's one of the most expensive drugs on the planet. So you have to ask, why on earth is it so expensive? And it's complicated. First, the research and manufacturing costs are just astronomical. We're talking billions in development. And a lot of these therapies are bespoke. They're made for a single patient, so you can't just mass produce them. Then you've got the small number of patients, so all that investment has to be recouped from just a few people. And finally, there's this really controversial idea called value-based pricing. The drug companies argue, hey, look at the lifetime of medical costs this one-time cure saves. Which, okay, makes sense from a balance sheet perspective, but does it also create a system where a cure exists, but it's priced so high that most people could never, ever afford it? Okay, so the price is one huge hurdle, but honestly, the money might be the easy part, because this technology forces us to ask some of the deepest, most difficult ethical questions we've ever had to face. And to understand why, you need to know about this key difference. On one side, you have somatic editing. Think of this like targeted surgery. It affects just one person, the genetic changes are made in their body, but they can't be passed on to their kids. This is what all currently approved therapies do. But then you have germline editing, and this is a whole other ballgame. Here, the changes are made to reproductive cells, sperm or eggs. That means the changes are permanent and they get passed down to every future generation. You're not just treating a patient anymore, you're redesigning their descendants. And that's why there's a widespread moratorium on it.
This all leads to the big slippery slope concern. The argument goes like this. Once we get comfortable editing genes to cure diseases, what stops us from editing them for other things, for enhancement? This isn't just about safety or consent for future generations, which are huge issues. It's about justice. Could we accidentally create a genetic divide? A world where the rich can afford to be enhanced while everyone else is left behind? A new kind of inequality literally written into our DNA? That's the fear of designer babies.
Okay, so we've got the mind-boggling price and these massive ethical debates. But let's bring it back down to the ground level, to the patient. For them, it's not just theoretical. There is a real-world gauntlet they have to get through. You see, getting access isn't just about affording the price tag. These are incredibly complex treatments, and you can only get them at a few highly specialized centers in the country. So for a patient, that means a whole other journey begins. Finding a center, getting insurance to approve it, which is a nightmare, then figuring out travel, where to live for weeks or months, all while you're seriously ill. It's an exhausting, grueling process. And that leads to this really important idea of an access desert. It's not just about living in a rural area far from a hospital. You could live right in a major city, just a few miles from a treatment center, but be just as isolated. Why? Because of all these invisible barriers. Maybe you can't get time off work, or you don't have reliable transportation, or you just don't have the background to navigate the insanely complex paperwork. It's a socioeconomic barrier, not just a geographic one. So with all these challenges, the cost, the ethics, the logistics, how in the world do we move forward? Well, it turns out a key part of the solution might be someone you already see pretty regularly. Yeah, pharmacists. They're stepping up and taking on this vital new role. They're becoming what you could call stewards of equity. They're the ones on the front lines, acting as advocates and navigators, helping patients fight their way through this complex new world. And their role is huge. They're involved at every single step of the process. Before the treatment even starts, they're helping patients navigate insurance and find financial aid. During the treatment, they're the ones overseeing the safe handling of these incredibly delicate therapies. And then after treatment, they're helping with long-term monitoring and follow-up. They're basically the quarterbacks of this whole process, coordinating everything. So that's the human side. The other piece of this puzzle is, of course, the money. We have to completely rethink how we pay for this stuff. And we're starting to see some really innovative ideas, like outcomes-based agreements, where the insurer only pays the full price if the therapy actually works. No cure, no full payment. Simple as that. There are also ideas like installment plans, spreading that massive multi-million-dollar cost out over several years. It's kind of like a mortgage, but for a cure. We're also seeing how creating competition for older drugs can free up money in the system for these new breakthroughs. So, at the end of the day, here's the real question. As we get this godlike power to literally rewrite life itself, what kind of world are we going to build with it? The biggest challenge isn't just inventing the cures. It's building a society that can deliver them fairly and justly to the people who need them. Because the true test of this science won't be in a lab. It'll be whether we use this incredible power to make a better, more equitable world for all of us.
This is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient or pharmacist-patient relationship is formed. Using this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's risk. The content on this podcast is not intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Clinical experts created the references, content, and clinical insight. NotebookLM, a Google AI tool, created the audio content, which I extensively reviewed before release. Finally, the host states that he takes all conflicts of interest seriously. Currently, there are no conflicts to disclose. For all of his disclosures and the companies he invests in or advises, he directs users to reach out independently, where he keeps an up-to-date and active list of all disclosures.